Salam gathering. And please, if you can put in the chat box where you're joining from currently and where you are from by birth, so we can feel the hug of Mother Earth that we are all holding together. Let's see, we have Nanette from South Africa. And we have our wisdom keepers from New Zealand and Hawaii and Palestine, Israel, Romania, different places in the US, the Virgin Islands. Oh, it's coming. The Isle of Wight, Germany, welcome. Boulder, Colorado, welcome Anita. Sasquatch, Canada. Let's go Peru. Hello, Elder Celine. Southern California. Loja, Ecuador. Washington State. USA, Florida, Michigan, Oregon, Benki Territory, Vermont, Netherlands, Northumberland, UK, I hope I'm saying it right. New Jersey, hello. St. Croix Island, Virgin Islands, yes. Iowa. More people from New Zealand, Slovenia, welcome. Pacific Northwest, Washington, Chester, Salish people, New Mexico, what did I miss? Oh, Prague, Czech Republic, welcome. We met from Chester, Northwest England. Oh, it's so good to feel the hug of Mother Earth. And people who are joining, you are welcome to put in the chat box where you are from and also scroll up and down to see where others are from. And that means we are live on YouTube as well. So whoever doesn't want to be seen, please keep your camera off. And with that, we will start our circle. We always do this circle based on the guidelines that we got from our UPIC elder, the late Rita Blumenstein, who was the spiritual advisor to the 13 indigenous grandmothers who are celebrating the 20th anniversary this October. There's another event coming. If you're interested, you can look it up. And she has worked with many indigenous traditions, and what she found was that these traditions have these what she named talking circles. They have different names, different forms, but they all share the same guidelines. And so she gathered those guidelines and handed them down to us. And so this is what we follow with these circles. And we found that when women are leading it, it creates a safe, brave, feminine container like the womb for all of us to be in without conflicting, but completing. So contradictions can coexist, which is quite rare because usually, we live in a life that is very much us or them, you or me. If you get the job, I don't. And the womb teaches us that we can expand and hold two hearts in one body and more than one truth or one notion in the same space. And so that is what we are asking to co-create. And for this, we need all of you, all of us, to hold a deep listening, as deep as the womb. And this is why we have the guidelines. And every time we read the guidelines, just like the host every time sets the table for those who are coming, even if everyone knows where the plates and forks are. So these are the guidelines. We are in a talking rather or listening while we're talking. So the actual action that we are taking is listening even as we speak. So the circle does the talking, which is why it is called the talking circle. We are doing the listening. We are asking to listen from the heart. In the first place, the heart ever beats in is not your chest, it's your mother's womb. So we're asking to listen from the deep primal place of the heart. We are asking to listen together, also to the silence if it may come, and let whatever comes spark things in you without expectations, but let the circle take you on the journey that it wants to. We ask to listen with the innocence of a child hearing something for the first time. Before you have an opinion about whether God exists or not, just hearing a story about a god or about a platypus or about a unicorn. Just listen to the story and let it water your soul with whatever drops are nourishing for you. And this is a potluck of offerings. So when something does not nourish you, just don't take it to your plate and palate. Just let it be there, for someone else might be nourished by it. We ask to be respectful of time and attention, of self and other selves here in the circle and beyond. We ask to be free of judgment, of planning, of arguing, of the need to be heard. We are not here to speak because we want to be heard, but because the circle wants something to come from us or from our other selves. So if something came from someone else, there's no need to repeat that. When we're in this deep listening, we will listen, we will hear. When you are invited to share your words, be it by speaking or in the chat box, you don't have to take it, for even if you do not speak, you will be heard. And one of the things that often happens in these circles is that someone else will say something that you were thinking or feeling. And that is why the circle does the talking. And we don't need to engage in doing that, but rather really be open to listening with not just our ears, but every part of our self and soul. We ask to make room for different truths, just like the womb teaches us that two hearts or more can live in one body without competing, without having to choose one over the other. That is why even if you had the same experience alongside someone here in the circle, maybe they experienced it in a totally different way. And so we ask to each of us to speak only about our own lived experience and what we know to be true for us. So I can have a very different experience to Diana, okay, or to Anita or to Muna. Yet we can all share the same moment, like the deer and the lion can share a moment where for one of them it's a chase for their lives, and for the other one it's a chase for food, and both truths are just as valid. We ask to expand, to make room for these different truths, and also to make room for each other. Even if I'm usually the lion, now that the deer is speaking and telling her story, I can listen and have a kind of a rare mirror to my inner self and see the often forgotten deer in me that I'm so used to being a lion. So allow this drop from another self to reside in you and evoke something that didn't exist before, maybe to start existing in you and possibly in your world, in our world. And in traditional talking circles, there's also confidentiality, which we don't have here because we are recording this. The chat box is going to be just for this group, so please do not save the chat. And yes, we would like to offer now a chance to make any changes because this needs to be a consensus. So if anyone wants to offer a change, we're giving a few seconds now. You can put it in the chat box. Okay, thank you. And with that, Kum Sabra, if you can start us with the opening blessing.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Aloha mai kako. I am in the mountains in Kokee. There's very, very little internet reception here. I'm in my cabin in the mountains. There's no electricity, very little reception. And I love to come up here with my friends to enjoy the peace and quiet of the mountains and the forest around me. All those beautiful mother trees, papa trees that grace our forest. It is a beautiful day here in Kauai. I see no clouds in the sky. Last night the moon was very bright, very beautiful. And I really appreciate Yale and the work that you do because it's each one of you, to connect with each one of you around the world via this means is how peace is achieved and beauty and health. And I pray for peace every day. And I thank all of you for being here because I know that you too treasure peace. This chant asks for long life for each and every one of you and your families, not just those of us standing here today, but those generations to come. O ka ua e ke akua, e nana mai kau mau pula pula, e ola a kaniko o, a hao maka I ole, a palala o hala, a kau I ka pua ane ane, a laila lave aku hoi a ui ke alo o makea e. O ka uola e ke akua, e nana mai kau mau pula pula, e ola a kaniko, a hau maka hiole, a palala o hala, a kau I ka pua ane ane. Ala lave aku oi au, I ke aloha kea e. Aloha e. Aloha e. Join me in singing those last words, aloha e, 2 times, please. Aloha e. Aloha e. Mahalo to each and every one of you. Aloha to you and your families and your communities. Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo. Thank you so much, Kum Sabra, for starting us off. And as we do these circles, the elders here in Alaska say that when women come together in true sisterhood, connect to the womb inside and around us, then great healing can begin. And so the first step for this would be to come in true sisterhood, as we feel you all are helping us do, and then connect to the womb, which is where we are asking the help of Diana to help us do that with womb meditation.
Thank you,
Diana.
and thank you, Como Sibra. I'd like to start, as we always do, with kindling the light inside of us or outside. And inviting us to close our eyes and to place both hands on both hearts, on the womb and on the heart. If there is no womb in your physical body, then both hands on your heart. And if you had your womb surgically removed, you still have an etheric womb. So please honor that space that was with you from birth. And let's breathe together deeply. Releasing the day until now. Exhaling all the errands and the details that occupy our mind. Breathing out anything that doesn't belong to this moment. And focusing on our womb, either our etheric or physical womb, or the womb that we came from, the womb of our mother, whether we have one or not, we all came from one. So taking a moment to honor the womb we all came from, and the womb that we have in our body if we do. And today we're looking at trust. And what other thing can we trust more than the womb? The womb is a closed circle, a closed system. Nothing interferes from the outside. When we are pregnant, we need to trust that the womb is doing its best in its own pace, in its own way. The birth is not timed by our needs or our wants or our minds. It is something we need to learn to trust and to discover as it comes rather than know in advance. Let alone a spiritual pregnancy, which we all can carry in our being. What are you spiritually wanting to be pregnant with now? What are you conceiving or have conceived recently in your spiritual womb to grow, to be nourished, to perhaps one day be born into the world? How can we trust that rhythm, that pace, that process, that timing? Whatever you are spiritually pregnant with has its own potentiality, its own rhythm and pace and timing. And yes, we want it in our timing. Yes, we want it in our way, in our specification. Can we, for a moment, connect with trusting that it will come without our interference? How does that trust feel in the womb, in our spiritual pregnancy? What is it that we can let go of in order to deepen, to drop further into the trusting that the womb knows, and the womb would take us there in her own time and will birth what needs to be birthed from us in perfection. Maybe there are some ways in which we can see surfacing the mistrust, the wanting to influence, the wanting to change, the wanting to control. Let's notice that, acknowledge this, thank it for its wishing to help or to influence an outcome. And with this thanks, releasing that need, releasing that mistrust, breathing deeper into trusting. Where do you feel trust in your body? Don't search with your mind. An inkling, the first one is the right one. Breathe into trust. Breathe trust in and release mistrust with the exhale. And thank your womb, your spiritual pregnancy, for its wisdom. And appreciate yourself for being able to trust it a little more in this moment. And try to release expectation. The spiritual pregnancy will come about in its own time. Allow it. And with that allowance of the spiritual pregnancy to be what it is, to take what it takes, to happen on its own terms, begin to return with your eyes closed into this moment, into the consciousness of now, sensing your palms on your body, your feet on the ground, your sit bones on the chair, remembering your surrounding and the shapes and objects that surround you. Remembering the circle you're part of, the flame, the screen with all the faces from around the world. Knowing you're part of all this. And allow your palms to move where they will, if they want to move to your lap or to your sides. Allow your feet to feel the ground and your toes to wiggle. Wiggle your fingers. Stretch if you need to. Bring yourself more and more present into your physical body. And when you are here fully and ready, allow your eyes to gently open. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Toda rabba. And maybe you can start us off with answering your own question, which I'm curious about. Where in your body do you feel trust? And also, what do we trust? What do you trust? How do you discern which wisdom to listen to, that of fear or that of wish? Desire, discernment, doubt, decisions, how do these come together in your culture? And
We lost you, Yael.
did you hear the
Yes, I
question?
heard, and you're back now. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I will begin my sharing by saying that I apologize in advance for having to leave early, so that's why I'm starting with my sharing right after the meditation. So I will continue to be with you in spirit after I leave. Trust. There was a time, long time, many years ago, that I realized that those butterflies, that sensation inside of my body of a fire in the belly or a fire in my esophagus, is something that I can feel both when I'm excited and exhilarated, and also when I'm anxious and fearful. So it was a big realization, and I realized that I can't attribute it to necessarily one or the other. There were times that I knew for sure that I was excited, and times for sure I was anxious, but at other times it was very unclear, like the question, what do we trust? Do we trust fear or do we trust intuition? And how do we know? So I took myself into an exercise that I've done for a few months, where I decided that I will, for very small decisions that have no consequences of my life, whether to go when I have to go from this point A to point B, I can go on the freeway, I can go on the back road. Doesn't matter, the decision is not going to affect anything. So I would sit down in my car, close my eyes, and ask for an inkling. And the first one I would trust and I will go with, not because it mattered if I was on the freeway or on the back road, but because I wanted to train the muscle of trusting the first inkling. So it wasn't so much something that I was experiencing in my body, but it was a training to ask my spirit for guidance and to practice the trusting of the very first inkling, so that when there comes time when something is really crucially important that I make this decision or that, I would be versed and experienced and trained and exercised in trusting the very first inkling. I remember this now. I've done it for like I said, for quite a while, and then I let go of it. And I remember it often, and then I forget it from time to time. But I want to offer this as an invitation, as an exercise to simply practice listening to the first inkling on very inconsequential decisions on a daily basis. So that's something I wanted to share with you. I wanted to also speak a little bit about the trust, the word trust in Hebrew. It's tricky because there isn't a straightforward translation. So one of the ways to translate it is lismoch, to lean on, because lismoch is coming from leaning on. What can we lean on? So it's not giving us that much of a question, but a direction of another answer. Not that much of an answer, but a question that directs us to what can I lean on? So when I get into fear and I'm wondering whether this is something that's true guidance or fear guidance, how can I lean on it? Is it leanable on? The other translation, I think, is not exactly trust, because like I said, I don't know if there is an exact word, but not as clearly as it is in English. But the other way to look at translating trust is emun, emunah. Emun is, well, yeah, trust in some way, but it's also faith, and it's also believing in something, and it's also comes from the same root as practicing. So trust then goes back to a practice. So it's not so much something that is a given, but an ongoing practice. How can I continue to practice trusting? And I'm going back to the first inkling, because anything beyond the first inkling, I find for me, is a mind chatter. on this hand and on that hand and on this on one hand and on the other and on the third hand and maybe no and maybe yes. It becomes a mind circle that doesn't go anywhere and just repeats itself. So once I moved from the first inkling to the second, there might as well be 200 of them. There would be no way for me to know which to trust, except for the first one, the first inkling. So that's what I'd like to offer for now. I see people are continuing to. Oh, Yael said lismoch, yeah, and emuna. I'm going to ask you, Yael, can you think of another translation of trust?
No.
It's odd to think about it that there isn't. It's such a straightforward word, and we don't have a straightforward word for it in English. So it's interesting. So I will take from.
Also לבטוח, no, Diana?
Say again.
It's also לבטוח, no? That's another word.
Yeah.
Livtoch, yes, but livtoch is from security, to be secure. And that is so connected to military associations and to security on the borders and all of that, that it's hard for me to think of trust as livtoach, but I guess you're right. It is also that. It is also that. So if we're looking at security and we're taking that out of the military zone into an internal security, so when there are impulses inside of me, which one makes me feel more secure? Which one can I trust? So thank you, Muna. I didn't think of that translation. So I'll leave you with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I had a feeling Muna might have a better word in Hebrew. And I'm kind of wondering, Muna, if it's coming to you to share now, or if you want to hear more. Okay. Muna, you will know when she speaks, but she's an Arab living Palestinian living in Palestine, in Israel. So she also knows Hebrew very, very well, even though her mother tongue is Arabic. And with that, I think we will go to Kum Stebra as long as we have you up in the mountains. Maybe we can have you share also about peace that is so present in the opening that you gave us, and also from this tiny sharing of Diana, Muna, myself. Thank you. I was trying to find how to unmute. Oh my goodness. Thinking about trust. Thinking about that sense that you have, whether you trust someone or not, you feel it pretty immediately, don't you, when you meet someone? Recently, I'm 79 years old now, and my grandsons are in their 20s. One is in his 30s, 27. One grandson just celebrated his 27th birthday. And they live one is working in Washington D.C., the other is living in Chicago, two are living in Arizona. Anyway, and I have one here still in Hawaii. When our children grow up, they tend to fly. They tend to move out into the world, and through their development, growing up here in their islands, they learn who they can trust. And for many of us, trusting someone is a feeling that you have, that you cannot explain it, but you feel it, yeah? And it is so very important to be able to trust people. I am up here at my cabin with two very good friends whom I trust literally with my life. And I have so many friends that I trust. It's just a feeling that you have, a sixth sense to know that you can trust or not. As this is a worldwide forum, I will share with you for the first time that I recently had an offer on the internet from someone who was willing, who had won a considerable amount of money, I think $100,000. In what are these games that you play? You buy a ticket and a number and then you win something. Well, someone representing him reached out to me and said that they had $10,000 to send to me. And I said, well, that's quite a surprise and that's very nice and I can put it to good use. But then the next text that I got from him, he said, but we need $500 from you to deliver this. They said, they asked me if I wanted a check or cash. I said, a check would be nice. And then he said, but we have a delivery fee of $500. So immediately my sense was, I do not trust this interaction. If you have $100,000 to give away for $10,000 each person, why would you charge that person $500? So immediately my senses went up. Unfortunately, I do not trust you. I have not responded to this man, but what I wish to tell him is that as a Hawaiian, I believe in mana. I believe in spiritual power. And I believe that all the good that you do will have an impact, a reflection on you, your health, and your family. And if you do bad, that too will have an impact. Maybe not on you, but on one close to you, one that you love, one that you cherish, one that you value, your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your lover. So there is a guideline, there is a balance to be honest, to be trustworthy, to be truthful in all that you do. Now, this man who sent me this text message saying that he had $10,000 from this fellow who won a great deal of money in, I have not responded to him today, but I will tell him flat out, thank you very much. I do not need your money. It would be nice to use to spread, to share with my grandsons, one of whom is going to college and all of these things that you have to pay for. But I will also warn him that the spirit of mana, you do good, it will return to you. If you do evil, it will return not just to you, but to those whom you cherish. So trust your instincts, all of you. Trust your mana. Trust your spiritual power. Because I can see among you that each one of you has mana. Mahalo ke akua. Thank you, Lord, for all of these blessings. Thank you for each one of you who is here on this international Zoom today. And thank you, Gail, for bringing us all together. Aloha mai kako.
Mahalo, Elder. That is so rich. Like so familiar, and yet to hear it from you, it's like a totally different feel to it. The depth of looking at it as mana. And someone told me once that mana in Hawaiian maybe is also medicine, or maybe I'm mistaken it with another word. Yes. So
No,
yes, it's really
it is true
interesting.
that
Please tell more about that if
no,
you
no,
can.
no, no. True. those of my friends, those of my ancestors who have practiced healing are believed to have great mana, great spiritual power.
Mm.
I will pray for people, but I have never really learned the medicinal plants to use. But one of the groups that I lead here on the island of Kauai are all the women, all the people. We have one man, all the women, mostly elders, who teach Hawaiian studies in the schools. And our last meeting of the year, I asked them, what would you like to concentrate on this coming year? And they agreed that they wanted to concentrate on Hawaiian, what we call la'au lapa'au, which is Hawaiian medicinal herbs, Hawaiian medicinal plants, and all the chants that go with practicing these things. So we are concentrating on meeting with those elders who still exist, who know the plants, know how to process them, know how to treat them, know how to use them, and also know all the prayers that are associated with these uses. Because it's not just the spirit of the plant, but it's the spirit of the creator that you share with people who are in need of prayer, need of medicine, need of healing. And so that is what we are embarking on this year to concentrate on. And we have several practitioners still alive on our island who do that kind of work. And we will learn from them. So Yael, I'm not sure if I answered your question or if I went totally off track, but those are my thoughts today on this. And I know in each one of your countries, each one of the places where you live, there are plants that you rely on for health and healing. If nothing else, then to make tea, turmeric, ginger tea, very, very good for you. I love green tea. I love matcha green tea. I go into Starbucks and I order a matcha green tea, not coffee, but green tea. All right, wonderful. It's wonderful to see all of you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so happy I could be here.
Thank you, Kumusebra. And we have in the chat box, I think it's the German word. I'm not gonna try to say them, but please look at the chat box, and maybe later we can hear a little bit more from the ladies who have enriched our circle with those words as well. And speaking of medicine and mana and trusting not only humans but plants, Celine, our healer and doctor, maybe we can go to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone, or good night, or good afternoon. I will start by blessing to the organizers for this meeting, blessing to the participants, to the audience because they are the reason why we are here. You are the audience. We make this for you. I want to show my gratitude to the trees, to the forest, to the Pachamama, the Mother Earth, to the Mama Cocha, to the Mama Coca, to all the sacred plants. The entheogens are called master plants, like plants of wisdom that are guiding us to our resilience. With this very old prayer, it's really old, it's about 6,000 years old for starting. Anyay punchay cacho, ay pimarisum, ñocapas auspicita, hawaricum, hanak pachapi, ñaupa amachiraikum, ari amak pachapi, erak'anku, mamach askawan, ch'ask'ak uyurwan, imayuwan, killawan, intiwan, mana karanchu reloj, mana karanchu tiempo, ch'ayta animal ch'irapaj, ch'irkaraj, wallpachu chayta. Basically, this means every morning I say thank you for the life of the plants, the animals, and the Mother Earth. Thank you for the persons that are still alive and they are still believing in you. And thank you, it says Pachamama, thank you Taita Inti, Father Sun, thank you Mother Moon, thank you Sisters Stars, thank you to all the animals, and thank you to all the rocks, all the beings, including the fungi, including the bad spirits, everyone. Thank you for all of that, which is our life experience. So for us in our Quechua culture, the meaning of trust, of confidence, of believing, doubt, is all related with just one concept. So in our cosmovision, the vision of Andean people about the cosmos, the universe, is that you have to act exactly as you say, and your saying needs to reflect exactly your thought. So your thought, your saying, your heart, and your act needs to be just aligned in one thing. And maybe in English is called coherence. For us, it's just one word. The sentipensar is, I just can't translate Spanish. Sentipensar would be the verb of thinking and speaking and doing. It's just one word: thinking, speaking, and doing. In other words, is you have to honor your word. You have to be trustable, to be human, to be different to other beings. You have to be aligned with your saying, with your thinking, with your acting in this sentipensar. And it's very interesting. The president of Bolivia recently has enacted a law like writing this word as just one word: thinking, speaking, and acting. So how much we can trust in the colonizers who has been killing us? How much we can trust in these politicians that permanently are speaking to us? We love the forest and they are destroying the forest, our home. How much we can still trusting in the elections, in the Western democracy that is stealing our girls. They are disrespecting our science, disregarding our medicine, disregarding our philosophy. How much we can trust? If we are saying this is not possible to trust anymore in the philosophy of the Western culture, because the Western culture say one thing and do the opposite. They say, I won't attack, and they do attack. They say, I won't be a candidate, and they are a candidate. How we, in God, we can still trust Him? Our confidence is broken. So we are attached to this philosophy. Try to think without any strings. Try to speak exactly what are you thinking. Even if the verbalized words are not transmitting your thoughts directly, because it's impossible to transmit your thoughts. The language is a hero of the thinking. The word try to interpret it, the thinking, but it's not loyal, it's not loyal, could be not loyal, could be a little bit different. And when you say something and you act differently, you do belong for us, the Quechua nation, to another world. And this word is the Western world, where we divide the world into phases. The Western culture who say exactly what they are not thinking, and they do exactly what they are not saying. Difficult to keep resilience, difficult to still believing after we saw our children were stolen from us to be slaves in a church from the Catholic priest, and we saw the destruction of our languages, our traditions, our lands. We are indigenous. We will be indigenous when the Western society will be finished, because this verb, just one unified verb, thinking, saying, and acting the same, is so easy. If you are not going to act in that direction, please don't say that. If you are thinking in a different direction, please don't say another thing. Just speak wherever you think the most closely what your thoughts are, and act exactly as you has offered it. Or keep your mouth closed and silent. So for the Quechua nation, in our culture, the highest level of disregard of our culture is to do not recognize that verb, the verb of sentipensar, of thinking, saying, and acting is just one word. And I can interchange my thinking, saying, and acting with you through the tobacco, or through the ayahuasca, or through the wilca, or through the peyote. When we chewing the coca leaf, we says, first we offering the 3 leaves says, Mama Coca, inal alma, inal nuna, please keep me always saying exactly what I am thinking, and allow me to do exactly what I am saying. And this nice time for us offering the coca leaves to the Mother Earth allow us to survive, to still believing in us. And itself, the coca leaf, meaning is keep your word. Is the meaning of coca, inal nuna, inal alma, coca leaf. Our sacred plant is the most sacred of our plants, of our being. Me personally, I do consider I am a daughter of the coca leaf. I do consider that the coca is not just a plant, it's a being, it's an spirit. That's why it's so painful when we saw the world being destroyed by cocaine. Cocaine is white, coca leaf is green, nothing to do. Nothing to do with, exactly like that, the trust, as we call the trust. In Quechua, there is a word, chikaj. Chikaj means confidence, trust, just one word, you keeping your word. Chikaj means your word has more value than your signature. Or can be also say your signature and your word has the same power or the same value. So I'm in pain for the situations we do have here in South America with the destruction of our cultures and our traditions, and the need of keep alive the wisdom of the elders, the Quechua elders, the Aymara elders, the Chipibo Conibo elders, and how poor we are. If you see the economics in South America, the poorest people are the indigenous people. The indigenous people will live like in a refugee camps. We are exploited. I am very sad for that. But at the same time, I am so proud of keeping and bringing to you today, this Sunday, 18th of August, what having told to my ancestors during the last 6,800 years. I am very proud of being poor, do not having money, trying to reach money to build indigenous hospitals, but having this idea of thinking clearly, speaking exactly what are you thinking, and acting exactly like you are saying, and avoid these thoughts about surrounding or bad thoughts, you know. So we just need to keep our wisdom alive and ourselves in peace. Having these gatherings like this meeting means a lot for us because we can keep our word and do a transformation, especially for the youngest generations who are going to survive after this life ends, and we want to keep this for generations. So if I have to ask something for all of you, please bring these words to the youngest generations coming. And I want really to show some gratitude to the organizers of these meetings, because they are keeping alive the last light. Today I realized that artificial intelligence can manipulate very much the information. They can pay money to make you more popular, or they can pay money to hide some news about the politicians, about the economy. So I realized that it's possible to you to pay in artificial intelligence, and you can become successful media influencer. And also you can hide by paying. What are you doing if it is something wrong? So that's why I really want to put all my love in this gathering, because here nothing is being controlled by Elon Musk. And we have the safe space for transmit our all traditions. And thank you so much. I will sing for you an old song in a Chipibo Conibo language. It's not my language. I am not Chipibo. I am Quechua, but it's from my country also. Is non-rao. Non-rao means our health, and also the health of the Mother Earth. Non-rao. Kanung kanu kanura, kanung 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 kanra, ra 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 ra, Ra Noan Rao Hanung Kanu Kanura Hanung Kanung 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 Kara Wombs of peace, serenita ya, serenita, canta, re re ra 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 ra, canta re re ra, danza, re re ra 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 ra. Thank you so much.
Tupananchiskama. Thank you, Celine, and thank you for trusting us that so many of us, including myself, are from that Western culture that have made many mistakes. And still you are here and you are trusting us enough to do that. And I think what you bring about money and how there's so much distrust for not just indigenous, but so many people of good heart that feel that money is sickening. And my understanding here in Alaska, we say hello, my other self, or shalom, my other self, to everyone and everything. And one day I said that to Mani. I said, shalom, my other self, Mani. What is going on? And Mani said, I am sick. Not I am sickening, but I am sick with all the ailments of humanity. And it asks for healing. And this is why we make sure to also nourish our elders in the financial way so that they can keep doing this kind of work and bring it to these circles. And that's our way of helping money heal and not just be exploiting how can I get more things for free or for as little as possible and get as much as I can, but to nourish them back. So if you want to help us, I'm putting in the chat box the donation link. And I will tell you that Celine is working with the Shipibo Konibo and with other indigenous people in South America to create more of abundance there that they can then share and heal more of humanity. And we will have a whole newsletter dedicated to that, possibly some events with their specific links if you want to tap into that. It's still in the making. It's not ready yet. So for now, you can go through that and help us at Wounds of Peace nourish back our wisdom keepers. But I'm really wondering, Elder Iya, speaking of the distrust of a culture that has done so much wrong, you coming from the Black American culture, and you are trusting, again, us and so many other white people and also non-white. How do you do that? How do you trust? What do you trust, Elder Iya?
Great question. Ori, may my head stay clear. Ori, keep my path clear. Ori, may I see clearly in this world and not hold those things against myself, but to welcome them in my life, and that you enlighten me in a way that I could barely fathom. The question is, my great-grandmother kept this alive for me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine. Please go on. Your grandmother kept this alive for you.
My great-grandmother. When I heard Celine speak, I listened to her language, and I heard my great-grandmother's language. They that throw the stone, the first stone, darling, don't know that they throw it for themselves. And that whatever word that they speak against you, they speak against themselves. I remember the first time I come home and I didn't know the word nigger. I didn't know the word that white people call Black folks in that time, because growing up in a small plantation, it was more like what I learned later was like villages, that somehow there was instinctual knowingness of safetyness and trust that these enslaved Africans knew and held on to. They may not have had the word, but they knew it. So I observed it in so many ways. My first time out, and I'm riding the bus because all the schools was within the church community or within your community. So you would stay in your community, you went to school there every through elementary until your high school years. And then those of us, things had changed in a way. Even the whites that lived in those areas, they had their own schools. So we didn't know anything about county schools. So county schools, when we became ready, prepared for high school, we was bussed out to go to the high school, so not a county. So we all on the yellow buses, but these young white boys, they young white children, and they seemed like they was all white boys, yell out and call us niggers. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Because you pause it, what is that supposed to mean? Maybe I had heard the word. I don't know if I heard the word or not. But I went back home that day and I asked my great grandmother, who is now living with us because she is later on in her years, but she's blind, but she was of good sense. She always said she could see more than those who had eyes to see, physical eyes, because she see. So she said to me, I said, what does it mean, nigga? She didn't explain. She didn't use a lot of words. She just said, honey, them children just don't know themselves. Them children do not love themselves. You see, my darling. And so you walk away with that from your great grandmother. And you walk in the world, and the world meets you and allows you to have that seed that helps you to interpret, because we talk about discerning how you move into the world. How do you know that grandmother, those tidbits, those seeds that she planted, is preparing you to walk in a world that you have yet not known? And perhaps she have not seen, but she trusts that it was there. Somehow she trusts that it was there. But she prepared you to go in so many different ways. Mind your words, she say. Your word speaks power. Your word creates, and we say today, our words, our thoughts create reality. My great grandmother was teaching me that when I was a small child. Mind your word, child. Because your word, it says about you, it will turn back on you if it's untrue. So mind your word. Mind what you send forward in life, she says, because those things will meet you later on. So to me, trust is about that. No, it's something that intuitively there, that intuitively allows you to interpret the danger of things, or to interpret how to create the safety around you. I feel, to me, when I connect the womb, I felt the women's in this circle from all over the world. The first thing I felt was this womb, how great there is that we can connect that many wombs together. And what came to me, that not only we can trust this womb in a way that it can grieve together, it can know that it can resurrect itself out of the wreckages of war and pain that we have suffered, because we are the children, we are the offsprings of that. We know what it's like. We are those who stand at this threshold. We are those women. We are those elders right now who can interpret and discern how to move into the world and trust ourselves and trust that faith that lies in that in the context of that unknown, what we call that spiritual, that unknown, that in each culture, no matter what its language is, speaks that language and knows that language. I don't need to speak. That language lies somewhere deep within us. And no matter what the word is that we use, it is interpretable and it matches no matter where we are in the world. If we listen to the tonation, the rhythm, and the feeling, and not judging it from our head, but allowed it to land in the heart of the womb, we know that. So we know how to come home. I feel that we, the women on this platform, knows how to come home. And they would not be here if we have not shown up that in the way that we know how to go home. So we have to ask ourselves, in this impregnation, and that's what I felt that, and we was given at the outset, we was given the fetus to plant it here. In this impregnated, what things will we cultivate and what things we will not carry with it? And how will we tend it? How will we tend this pregnancy that generates itself over time out of all of our ancestral knowing, out of all of our indigenous knowing? Because at the root, we all are indigenous people. And we know this way. So my great-grandmother planted the seeds and gave me confidence to walk this path and to know today that we are the one. We're the ones. We are the elders. We embodied the ancestors, their voices, their words, their wombs as well. So we are the ones who can transmute this. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Ia Ashe. And as I'm listening to all of you with the power of mana, the power of medicine, the power of our words, if they are aligned with our thoughts and our deeds, the reflections of when I say something about you, I'm actually saying it about myself first. Nothing is created outside, it's created inside first. I'm also mindful of the danger of that power and how easily we can maybe mean well, but say it in a way that doesn't land right for someone else. And how do we forgive ourselves and our other selves for mistakes? And wondering, Anita, if you can bring that or whatever comes to you from everything that's been shared so far, please take us.
Thank you. So I just feel in my heart everyone that's spoken, their different parts, and it just made me smile because it made me remember that who I am and what I am. I'm part of the cosmos. I'm the stars. The universe does not have my back. The universe has my heart. And that's how I was taught. So the whole notion, when you're just talking about, I was always told, be careful of what you say. Be careful of what you do. Be careful of even what you think. Because once you do that, once that's out, even a thought, you can't take it back. Now, you can create a new one, but you can't take that back. And it was all a part of knowing who I am and what I am, the alignment, the part of something bigger, both being important, but being a part of, not higher, not lower. And so there's many tests of that. And that's why even with the sinus infection, I said, I have to come to this one because there, even though I was taught that very little, there are different things that have occurred in my life that made me forget for a short time. I have to remember it was a short time because the training and the lessons being an Indigenous Nawa, it was just a short forgetting but not very long. And that was due to some abuse. It was due to a murder of my father that was race related and a number of things. But when I then realized that I was doing the very thing my elder said, be cautious, be cautious. And that was, I was giving away who I am and what I am. I was giving away a trust in the universe and me being part of it. Which means if you give trust to others, then you better be careful because your trust level could be very low. And it becomes a reaction to your environment rather than coming from and through, like the womb you were talking about, or what Celine talked about, this knowing, despite all the whatever word I could say, 4-letter, is going on around you, you also know who you are, what you are, and be in alignment with that. And so there's important process I want to say that I was taught, and it was when I was a teenager, so it didn't come as early as 2 and 3, which most of my training did. And that there was a process to realize the joy and responsibility of being happy in this part of this hoop of life. And to do that meant you need to stay present. That doesn't mean you forget what happened, or you don't forget the power you have of what happens to you, but you stay present to what is occurring, which means that when things are coming at you, you learn to find the silence within you, the knowing who you are. And then from that place, I actually almost feel groundless. And yet at the same time, I am listening rather than running away from some horrible things. I'll give an actual example so people know. So the last face-to-face meeting in 2019 before COVID happened, one of the organization I belong to is globally, it's a very powerful group. A lot of those influencers. And at this event, we just did a little exercise where we would take 5 minutes saying what we were doing, and then other people would give their reaction and how they might support it. And mine was to raise some funds to support Indigenous people. Also know that to get the message out, amplify those, and a PR firm was willing to do this for very little money. And because they knew that was their responsibility. That's how their firm had gotten so successful, and they'd forgotten it till they had me as a client with my book. So then everybody has 2 minutes, and there's 7 of us. And the first man to speak, when I shared what I did, he said, well, you're not going to like what I have to say. And I remember my body leaning forward because that was my training. Lean in, familiarize yourself. What is happening here? It wasn't run away or trigger or all the crap that happened in my early childhood. No, you lean in and familiarize. And he began to say in the 2 minutes, every horrific thing about an Indigenous person. I mean, every stereotype. I wouldn't give you a sit, is what he's told me. He said, you're drunks, you're alcoholics, you're abusers, you're blah, 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 blah. I mean, everything you could think of. And then he stopped. And the rules were you couldn't say anything. You're just to listen. But I was like, this is not, no. You just at least have to know that this is not true. Something is going on with you. I don't know what that is. But I began to do that, and all the other people stopped me. And I was like, do I get up and leave, or do I stay? I stay here because I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to figure out where. So besides familiarize yourself, then I was taught to cultivate. What is it in all that's happening that you want to cultivate? You want to have produce, rather than get caught in the, downward cycle. And so what happened at the end of that, everybody dispersed. And then COVID happened. We couldn't meet in person, but I ended up going and speaking to a group about this, that what had occurred. And they had just created a diversity inclusion group. And most of the membership said, we don't really need this. So I went to this diversity and I said exactly what I shared with you. And they were, what? That happened here? That's not supposed to. I said, yes, I trusted that wouldn't happen here because I the people as being, personal development and all this stuff. Then I started getting a phone call from this man who said these things. And trusting doesn't mean you don't use discernment. That's the whole, familiarize, and then you look at what it is that you want to cultivate. And so I said to a couple of board members, I said, I will meet with him on Zoom, but 2 of you have to be present. And they said, fine, because I discern. I'm not going to say something to somebody I don't know what they're going to do with it. And so he came on and he began like this. Well, I did say all those things and that, and sort of like, and usually that knocks people off the chair. So I don't know what happened with you. You just kept leaning towards me and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and what it really was about is that I wanted to destroy you because my sister married an Indigenous man in Canada, and he's a drunk, an alcoholic, and he hasn't been in my niece's life. And the niece has always been in my life, and now he wants custody. And I'm just afraid of losing my niece. So there was silence, and it was time for me to talk. And this is where my ancestors came through of staying present, because it would have been very easy to lash back out of him. And I did do things in the organization to make sure that wouldn't happen again. And he got off the board and all these things. However, when he said that, I was listening with my heart. And when I listen with my heart instead of just my head about all the horrific things that are true that happen, the first thing that came out of my mouth is, well, first, I just want to say to you, that must have been really horrible. That must be really horrible to think you're going to lose this person you love and not have, the kind of involvement in her life. So and he just started crying. He goes, I don't know who you are. Who are you? And I said, no, I would be really upset if I thought I was losing my niece. And then I went on to say the things that I wanted from him, I expected from him. And I didn't say it with anger. I just came out with the third one I was really shocked by. The first one is, you've got to learn about, he's Jewish, so you got to learn about Jewish people, and you got to learn about all the Indigenous people. There are a lot of them in Canada. And I want you to, not necessarily to me, but to the diversity committee, I want you to send real reports about what you're learning. That's really important. And as I said that, why it could come out so easily is I kept thinking about his niece. Here's this young Indigenous woman. What the heck signals was he going to send to her unless he changed his point of view? I may not be the one who does it, but I'm also not the one to fan the fire that he had. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing, he had to admit, he had to tell everyone that it was him and apologize and agree never to do this again. And the third thing that came up, I didn't think of, it just came through. And I think that's the being ungrounded and yet grounded. My ancestors came through. And then the third thing I expect you to do is to raise the money to support me and help me in raising the money to be able to get 15 elders supported by a PR firm. And I expect you to do that. And when that came through, I thought, I really wanted to look behind me, but I thought, that was my grandmother, great-grandmother. You're like, it's not that you forget, but you do move forward with who you are and what you are. And that's the Xara what you're talking about, turning that horrible storm, into where it can be life-giving. And so that last part then is taking action in the direction of what you want to create, rather than just being triggered and giving away your power. Because I know for me, from my early beginnings, it's kind of a schism. On one hand, I was around amazing elders, learning all sorts of talkings, and just feeling so safe and loved and trusting there of myself and them. And then this abuse and all this other stuff with racism that was happening, where I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive this? However, what won out, what has come through stronger than ever is that alignment. that knowing that power of who I am and what I am, and that my heart and my mind, my words, my actions, all of that to be in alignment, the universe has my heart. And I know that I'm not alone. I do nothing alone. So I want to leave you with that the whole thing about being present when things come in, so we don't just give in to our triggers, to also know that I have the level, each of us have the level, we have trust. We get to decide. We don't give that to somebody. I'm not giving that to anybody else, the level of trust I'm going to have in this world and how I'm going to walk and be. I have a lot of energy behind that because that's how I saw my mother walk that with a lot of shit happening to her. But that is really important. So familiarize yourself with what's really happened. Stay present, not about what did happen or that, not being naive, just staying present. Then decide in all that's happening, what do you want to cultivate? That could mean even just walking away. I'm not judging, but be clear about what you want to cultivate. And then third, you're taking action in what you believe, knowing who you are and what you are and all the support you have to go forward. So I leave you with that and the notion of trust. It's a powerful thing we all have. I'm not willing to give it away. And I wish us all to use it in a good way, to be good relations to each other. That's it.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for trusting us with that story. Thank you for trusting yourself throughout this ordeal. And Muna, I'm wondering if it's time for you to share.
Thank you. I was just about to say that it's midnight here now, so but so yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here and allowing me to speak with all these really beautiful women. Really, thank you. I'm very honored, and thank you, Yael, for organizing this. It's great. And
Also, other genders are here. I just want to respect the men and the other genders that are also here.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the men and women. Thank you for correcting me. And just wanted to say that before speaking, I had like it always happens to me. Like I come with a thought, and then something shifts throughout the night or the conversation or listening to everyone, and I heard a lot about trust and a lot about mistrust and when to trust and when not to trust. And many thoughts have been running through my mind about the idea of trust. And I'll say what I initially wanted to start with, and then I'll add all the other pieces. And I hope I won't be too long. So, like I made a decision some time ago that I'm gonna go every day and dip my body in the sea. And it's summertime here, and I find the salty water is really nourishing, and it just keeps me connected, in a different level. And the funny thing is that I love the sea, and I'm so scared of the sea. Like I have this really very interesting relationship with it. And I've been learning so much about the sea and, working around it. And I just, this evening I walked into the water and I was like, just help me trust you. I really need your help. Explain to me what I need to do in order to be able to come dip my body in the water without fear. And I just listened. And the more I listened, the more I just let go, and I was in the moment, and I could really feel the creatures living within the water, moving, and kind of understanding the dynamics of the water. And I didn't really have, like, I had all kinds of plans of what to do in order to trust more, but basically I think that the moment I asked for trust, there it came. The moment I was in communication with the sea, with the being of the sea, there it came. And so my key message was that there's always nature to trust. especially today with this amazing moon. And, you know, I was looking on one side, there's the sun and the star coming up, and the other side, the moon. It was so, wow, like nature is so present. And every time that I lose my trust, especially now during these days of the crazy war going on in this land, like really our hearts are wrecked. Our nervous system is totally torn. And every once in a while, I just really like need to go out back to nature and remember, because she's the only one I can really trust with all my being, you know, like I can trust the moon for being there, the star for being there, so far for all the creatures, you know, the trees and they're there and they're just there, you know, and I can trust that to be able to lean into every time. So this was this was what I came with. But as I was listening to all of you, I was thinking, wow, like here I am talking about my experience inside the sea. And really, like, I also understanding like this amazing beauty of the sea. It's actually one of the only creatures that you can immerse completely your body into its body, right? It's like total communion. And I was thinking, like, not so far on this very same shore, there's an incredible disaster happening. And what do these people trust? Like, how can a mother wake up in the morning knowing that her house can be bombed every day? What would she trust? You know, like, what would you trust? And I have no answer for that. Really, I don't pretend to have an answer for that. I just, you know, like just thinking about how it's possible to live without basic trust in life and in people and in anything. You have to find your way through somehow. Otherwise, how can you live? You know, so I don't know. I admire every person that survives the situation, no matter what, you know, and I pray for their hearts to remain clear, and somehow, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to heal, you know, through this incredible disaster happening. And also I thought of, I don't know how many of you have heard of the bombing that happened in the Golan Heights with the 12 children that were just playing in the playground, and then the rocket fell down and immediately like all of them died. And I heard the story of one father who came to the playground and his son was in his last moments, you know, like breathing his last breaths. And these are Druze people. So in the Druze religion, they believe in you know, like living again and again and so איך אומרים? גלגול? يعني?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation, of course. It's like one of the main words that I use in my practice. Anyway, so this father came and his son is there, like breathing his last breath. And he just said, you know, like, okay, well, I like he spoke it immediately. It was for me, it was amazing to hear this. That he blessed his son and said, well, I just wish for you to have really beautiful parents in your next life. You're free, go, and please choose good parents. And I think about this amount of incredible trust, right? In your path, in your way, in spirit. And wow. It's really about mindset, I believe. It's really about mindset because, you know, we're talking about trusting people and trusting governments or trusting fellows or trusting, that's all really very interesting. And, you know, given somehow to, we can play with that somehow. Wish that other people would behave with as high integrity as we do. But when you place your trust in a higher power, I think something within the being really rests. And having said that, in Arabic we have, of course, I don't know, there's like the translation to it in English, trust in Allah and tie your camel, right? So trust in Allah and tie your camel is a really good example about that, right? So yeah, we do trust in Allah, we do trust in spirit. And then that doesn't mean that I'm just an idiot sitting here and not doing anything and waiting for God to sort everything out. So we do play both. And I use that in almost every aspect of my life. Like I do have the trust within myself. I do this movement of completely trusting spirit to guide me where I need to go. But in the actual physical life, I would do everything that's needed to achieve my goal. And for me, that has been a winning, like winning formula for everything. And yeah, I guess these are all the trust thoughts that I have for this evening. I hope they were somehow, received openly. Thank you.
Thank you, Shukran, Muna. And if you can put in the chat box the sentence with the Allah and camel.
That's a great one.
It's a good one. Yeah. And this week I had a very kind of what Anita described as the moment of forgetfulness that I just had a real trust breakage. I was thinking about the children that Muna just described, both the Druze and the Palestinians and the Israelis and the kids in Iran whose fathers are now also going to war. And I could imagine, people there thinking, what is this war about? And why are we giving the lives of our loved ones for that? The children in Ukraine and Russia, so many places in the world that have wars that not no one, but many people, like, why would I want to hurt someone I've never even met in the name of some government that I'm supposed to, trust, that I'm supposed to count on? And I just completely lost faith in humanity. I was like, there's nature and, nature disasters and accidents that happen because we are careless or stupid or tired or all kinds of things that are just human. But wars is something we actually take action to create more and more. And how can we still be going towards that rather than towards peace? And I just felt that we are such a little dot in this ocean of war-seeking people. And I just broke for like 5 hours. And I just needed to remember, and it was the US, wee hours of the night, everyone I knew and was like, I can share this with, was asleep. And then I saw Muna on my WhatsApp and I was like, I'll just go to my sister and I'll ask her if she has the, capacity. And she did. And she didn't tell me that story of the Druze that she just shared, but she just reminded me, that I don't know if you remember what you said, Muna, because it just, it came through you so powerfully. But she just told me, you want to help, you want to do something to make it better. All right, you are the child in Gaza, you are the child in Israel, in Iran, you are the soldier, you are the perpetrator, you are the victim. Heal that. Start with yourself, because nothing is created outside, it's created inside first. And you just brought me back to remembering to my center. And I think this is why we do, or at least for me, it's a big kind of egoistic part of why we do these circles, is to help each other remember, because even those of us who are carrying the torch often forget, or often we need someone to help us, maybe not turn on the light because the light is there, but sometimes we just have a blindfold and we don't even remember to take it off. So thank you. And again, I'm told by governments and authorities not to trust people like Muna, who are supposed to be my enemy, but I don't think it could be taken away that we are sisters at heart and at spirit. And every time, trust is something that you build. And I think it's growing more and more. And with these circles, I'm learning more and more to trust the people that come here, and also trust myself, as Anita was describing, that if anything goes astray, I trust myself to discern, but I also trust all of you to help us hold this together, because a big part of this is feeling that you are not alone and that you are not crazy, and that it does make sense, even if, you know, not many people can understand why you're doing what you are doing. And with that, I would like to ask Catherine to share with us.
Kia ora. I was actually thinking we might be running very short on time, so I might just be an observer today. Thank you for that. I can only, echo the words of everyone else. I put something in the chat, which I hope resonates with people, and the fractal nature of this conversation is fascinating to me. The different pieces that everyone has contributed, it's like a web of understanding which just integrates so beautifully as truth for me. And an example of that is, like, if I start somewhere in the middle of our circle conversation, Yael, thank you for introducing this idea of medicine and healing. You know, our word in the Māori language for a remedy, for healing, is rongoa, rongoa. And in that word they've got at least two words. Rongo means to perceive. Often in the common usage, everyday language, it's to hear something, but it really means all your perceptions, to perceive something. And the R at the end, as you know, for those who are on these conversations, they know what are the harmonic, vibrational harmonic in our language. R is, you know, the higher thought, the wisdom, the knowledge. So what it indicates you're actively seeking out knowledge. That's where healing comes from. It may be the knowledge of plants, because we have rongoa and plant medicine. It may be, you know, the healing power of just this. This right here is healing, just talking and metabolizing our thoughts and refining our thoughts into vibration of like sound, and refining that to vibration of three-dimensional material, molecular based, you know, that's healing processes. And then I was thinking, you know, rongoa is perceiving. Diana started right at the top, and she said, you must listen. You must listen. It's a practice you have to cultivate. And that takes discipline. And like Anita was saying, you know, you really have to have discipline when you're in situations which are triggering. You've got to bring your discipline right forward to the front and really lean on the practices that you have habituated in yourself as foundations, you know, in your life, to be right, be in right relationships with everything, other people, other earthlings on this planet, but right relationship number one with yourself. Oh my gosh, it all starts, you know. Funny thing, the Kumu Sabra's story about that scammer, I had that happen to me this week as well. You wouldn't believe it. But the interesting thing I noticed was I had this, you know, spidey sense right from the get-go. Nah, something's off here. When they called me, something's very off. Number one, my own internal bing went off. And why did I trust that so deeply? Boy, you know, just here, it makes me ask that question. Why do I trust my own instincts so deeply? You know, it goes back, I reckon, to my origin story and my belief in my origin story of who I am and who I know who I am. I am a descendant of the supernatural ancestors. That's what I am. And knowing that logically, and this is where there's, you know, Celine talked about coherence. There's got to be coherence, okay, and what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're doing. There's also, I believe, the most powerful coherence, and that's what I put in the chat, is the coherence between the different minds of us as beings. divine beings, supernatural, powerful beings, co-creative beings. The coherence between the mind of, which is, the brain organ generates one kind of mind. The heart organ is another apparatus in this physical body, which helps us connect with the spiritual world. These apparatuses, and we believe there's also a third mind, which is in your gut. Your gut instincts, your gut instincts, that's another mind. And when you have this harmony between the minds, that's when it becomes very clear to truth is easier to discern. But if you're only acting from one mind, the intellectual mind, you can go get a bit off. If you only act from the heart mind, just the heart mind, sometimes you can be, misled with, like, an example would be love and compassion and aroha. We call it aroha. It's very necessary. But sometimes you can, like, be too aroha to others to the point that you kill. There's a saying, kill them with kindness. You have to temper sometimes your emotions with logic or intellect or instinct. They have to work together in like an orchestra. It's fascinating. And interestingly, a word we have for our intuition is fatu manawa. Fatu means the eye. Manawa means the heart. So it's literally the eye of the heart. It does cut through a lot of the noise. It's like Celine was saying, I absolutely agree. There is so much noise out there. You can't, artificial intelligence is just making it go like on steroids. You can't tell what the truth is anymore. It's just all a fantasy, a fiction. And there's mis-dis and malinformation. Misinformation comes from just, I'm ignorant. Disinformation comes from, I know it's wrong. I'm still going to say it. Malinformation is the lowest form of bad information, wrong information, lies and that, because malinformation has an intent behind it to cause harm. It's the worst kind. And so to sift through all of that noise, how are we gonna do that? And again, it comes back to knowing who we are here, where we stand. You come from that point of sovereignty, I am the highest sovereign, because I'm a child of the highest sovereign. Supernatural, I'm talking about, the co-creator. So it all comes back to that. Fascinating discussion. That's why I think metaphysical activism right now, we are being called. I'm a defender. I've been arrested by the police, the law enforcement. I've been out there, put my body on the line, but really I've come over the years to say, you know what, on the spectrum of activism, physical over there and spiritual over there, I think I'm starting to shift that, across the spectrum, and wanting to focus more on our metaphysical activism. I've always integrated metaphysical activism into my bodily activism, but I really believe it's time for everyone to put more of a focus on metaphysical activism. And it's not a woo-woo thing. By jingos, we can triangulate that with science now. Not that we need science to prove Indigenous wisdom was correct. I'm just saying, for those who are not, they don't consider themselves Indigenous, or, they're from the Western culture, that's how they operate, a lot in the logical mind, but not enough in the heart or the gut mind. That's not an integrated mind. So we can help them to help integrate all of the mind, and then we will see truth. I believe it'll be easier to see the truth. So, man, I hope we can construct some kind of a project, something which helps bring the Indigenous, way of seeing the world, the cosmovision, as Celine says, and the Western world, because we can't ignore it because it's there and it has value. And also, what if there are other worlds? All good for that too. But to bring them together, it's all about integration. You'll find a lot of falling for lies and dismiss and malinformation is because separateness is the reason. If you pick it apart, you'll know what I mean. That might be our home play. I won't say homework, I'll say home play. Go away and think about that. Where is the separation in this scenario which is causing me find it hard to see the lie because I can't connect to something more fundamental to see the truth. Woo! Awesome. So thank you very much for this conversation. It's been really helpful, as always. I did pull a card, by the way. Challenges and obstacles. And by this, what it said to me when I pulled this card, we are the biggest obstacle. We get in our own way of seeing the truth. Boy, so I've got work to do on myself to get out of my own way. Sometimes I forget, I am the atua. I'm an expression of the supernatural ancestors. I need to get out of my own way and say, yeah, I am. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Just believe it. Kia ora. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for everyone who's shared. We are running out of time, even though we have a lot more wisdom in the circle. So what we will do now is go into silent offerings, where we hear from all of those who didn't have a chance to share in the chat box. And please come with your unique plate and palette. Take into your own heart whatever nourishes you, and let that which doesn't be there for someone else might be nourished by it. And speaking of nourishing, another way that you can help us nourish back our wisdom keepers is with the donation. So Alma, Michelle, if you can put in the chat the link to our newsletter for the future events, and also for the reciprocity in a mutual way. And now we'll give 3 minutes to everyone to share your offerings in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I'm wondering, Elder Vav, maybe you can do the closing since we didn't get to hear your voice.
Thank you, I'd be honored. We all wake up in the morning and trust that there's going to be daylight. And nature has a wonderful way of reminding us when we have weather changes and food shortages and dirty water that we shouldn't take it for granted. So let us just take a moment to breathe in all the wisdom that we've heard tonight from so many wise wisdom speakers and so many elders holding love in their hearts and the wisdom of the ancestors in their minds and bones. And as we breathe in that wisdom, let us send a prayer out to all those who make the decisions for our countries and ask that they make that decision from their highest good and from their hearts and their souls and not from their egos or their position of power. And if we can send love to all those who we see doing wrong and hold them in our hearts and send them love, as well as those who we see having bad done to them, then maybe there's a chance that we can help to heal this world. So let's send blessings out into the universe. And this new moon that's coming, this huge supermoon, shines down on all of the world. So let's send our love and our thoughts all the way to the moon and to see those words and prayers reflected off the moon onto this planet. And into the hearts of all who need love and healing. Blessed be.
Thank you. Toda rabah, shukran. Thank you also to Michelle, who's helped us to support this technically, this circle and so many others. Thank you to Alma, who's helping also, and to all of you who helped us co-create this deep listening. Any encounter is a co-creation, and this one was very deep and very beautiful, very nourishing. Thank you all, and see you next time.